All right, we are back here in our TP-Link. So this wired client, so we have one. So it acquired an IP address of 192.168.0.100. So this TP-Link is 192.168.0.1, which is the default. And for this video, we will proceed with the USB sharing. So USB sharing is basically just for us to insert a USB device, plug in a USB flash drive, for example, into the router's USB port, and confirm that that USB device is properly detected or recognized. So recognize being we could see the drive in our UI, and thereafter it also recognize the capacity of that particular USB flash drive. So if it's like 16 gig or whatever capacity, it will be properly detected. So that's one thing that we should take a look later once we plug in our flash drive. So I have plugged in our flash drive. So under USB sharing, so USB storage device, so it detected as drive G with this particular capacity, so unused yet, so purposely without any files, so empty. And you could also name your network media server name, so for sharing settings. And the other settings will be the folder sharing, so share all, enable some authentication. So currently this is the folder name, so volume SDA1, the folder path is G, and the volume name is SDA. Okay, so under sharing settings, so for starters, let's rename the network or media server name from its default. So for example, INQ share, and click save. For testing, suppose you want it more descriptive, for example, Inquirinity share. So you could not type already letter E, because it will only accept 15 characters. So 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 11 12 13 14 15, so up to 15 max characters. So we will just revert it to Inquirinity share. So for example, if I open a command prompt and type the command \\, then the network or server name, so INQ share, click OK. So it will return, okay, so this particular folder name, so or share name, so Inquiry share, you can access this shared folder because your organization security policies block unauthenticated guest access. So similarly, if we type in the IP address instead of the share name, so 192.168.0.1, which is the IP address of this TP-Link routers, and click OK. Similarly, those face or this particular computer face an error. So this particular address 192.168.0.1, you can't access this shared folder because of this PC's organization security policies for unauthenticated guest access. So we proceed further in configuring our USB sharing. So after configuring the server name, so under share all, you have the enable authentication. So let's toggle this one and let's click save. Okay, so nothing much after we enable authentication and click save. So now let's try what is the difference. So similarly, typing the same share name, so INQ share. So as you could see, we now have access to the INQ share, and let's try if we have read and write permission. So double click this volume and you'll be asked for to enter the credentials, so admin and the router's default credentials. Click OK, and you now have access to list. And let's try to put in some documents. So for example, test.txt, yes, we do are able to put in a file. Let's try to do some content within this text file. Yes, we can put in a file. We have write permission. So do we have delete permission? So right click delete, click yes, and yes, we do have also delete permissions. So you might ask, what if I wanted to have a separate authentication other than my router credentials? Because of course I don't want to share my router's credentials to the users that are consuming this folder sharing or shared folder or shared USB flash drive. So the authentication is configured in advance, so just stay tuned for the future videos on this, so we could create some account for folder sharing. As you seen previously also, you've noticed that when we connect to the shared server or shared folder, so the entire volume was presented to us. So because of this setting, share all. So what if we will untoggle this? So click off, and what happens is we'll now have the capability to add a folder name or a certain name that we will be sharing. All right, let's do that. So click add, and volume name, we only have one volume, so browse, so nothing much here. So save root path, the folder name, let's say test. So enable authentication, yes, we do want that. Enable write access, of course if this is a public folder, then you can untick this enable authentication, but obviously for your users, for security, enable authentication. Enable write access if you're just sharing some documents and you don't want them to do modifying the files that are inside of this folder name, so you can uncheck this. Then enable media sharing as well. So enable write access, enable media sharing, and click save. So we are back in our shared folder, and notice we have the test because we have renamed the folder or named the folder test. So double click and let's try to put in some files similarly with our test. If we have write access, so test the text, we could edit this one and type in some content. We could edit, and obviously we could delete. And yes, we could delete. You will also notice that there is status here under the folder name, so test, and actually it's clickable. So what happens if we click this one? So giving us a disabled status. So let's refresh this, or let's reload again the share, and it's gone already. So it's not there. So if we enable once again and there's no disabled icon, then the share will be there. And then another observation, so for example, if you would like to add another folder, so click add, and let's try select a folder. Obviously you only have one volume, which is G, so you could not type by doing only browse, so G. So let's leave it at the root. So the folder name, so we already have test, so let's say test 2, and let's just check these checkboxes. Obviously you could have the help here or more info of what you are checking. So enable authentication, so these are the explanation or a short description, so for that checkbox. So enable authentication, obviously self-explanatory, that you will be required with a username and password. Write access is also a self-explanatory one. You could modify this folder, so perhaps the media sharing needs more clarity. So by selecting this checkbox, you are enabling media sharing for this folder. As such, you could view photos, play music, and watch movies. So hence the term enable media sharing. But going back, if we try to add test 2, we already have test 1, so click save, and it will have an error code. The directory already exists. So they are not the same. So test and test 2, or maybe let's put it far. So sample, it's also the same. So far observe, it will work. If I will go into another location, not the roots, so let's select and click save, and let's say sample or even test 2, and checking this and click save. So it allows it to be added. So what happens now is we do have test and test 2. So let's go in, see if we can put in some files. Okay, so test file, double click and save it again and delete. So we have some modify access. So what if we add a third one? So let's try. So G, so browse, so let's say this again, so test 3. So enable authentication, now the checkbox. So we have test 2 on G and this system volume information. So click save. Already mentioned the directory already exists, so there's nothing much we could put in here. Let's say click G, test 3, click save, the directory exists. So let's clean this up. So hopefully you've learned something. So you just click under modify, there is this delete icon, so deleting the folder test, and there you go, click save, and you are with the settings without the folder shares. And you could also obviously share all, and you're back with the volume itself.